How should we face death? It's one of the biggest, most fundamental questions of life, and today we're going to explore two profoundly different answers that come to us from ancient Chinese philosophy. It's a question every single one of us has to face eventually. And what's amazing is that over 2,000 years ago, a couple of philosophers offered these radically different answers that still speak to us today. It really boils down to this: control versus acceptance.
So on one side, you have Xunzi. He argued that we have to manage death, using the tools of culture and ritual. And on the other side, you've got Zhuangzi, who said no, we have to accept it as just part of nature's flow. We're talking about two completely distinct paths here, one of control and one of letting go.
All right. First up, let's walk down the path of order with the Confucian philosopher Xunzi. His big idea was that death is this raw, chaotic, messy experience, and the only way to deal with it is to impose a very human, very cultural pattern on top of it.
The key concept for Xunzi is something called ritual propriety, or Li. Now, this isn't just about funerals. Think of it as a complete cultural playbook, a system designed to bring order, harmony, and even beauty to every single part of life.
Xunzi himself wrote, "Serve the dead as if they were alive, serve the absent as if they were present." You see what he's getting at? The whole point of the ritual is to create a sense of continuity, to kind of smooth over that massive rupture that death causes. By treating the dead almost like they're still here, the cultural order stays strong and unbroken.
And let me tell you, this was incredibly demanding. We're not talking about a simple memorial service here. Xunzi lays out this whole ordeal of mourning that could go on for years. It involved these super elaborate rituals meant to structure grief and really reinforce the social hierarchy, even after someone was gone.
So for Xunzi, this was way bigger than just one person's grief. These rituals were absolutely essential to prevent a tear in the very fabric of society. The dead person had to remain a part of that ritual structure because that's what kept the world orderly and whole. Okay, now let's do a complete 180 and turn to the Taoist philosopher Zhuangzi. For him, death wasn't some problem that culture needed to solve. No, it was a totally natural process that we should accept and maybe even embrace. There's this story from the Zhuangzi text that just captures his philosophy perfectly. So his friend, Master Sanghu, dies. And what do his other friends do? They're found singing and playing an instrument right there next to the body, completely defying all the traditional somber rules.
And when a traditionalist disciple comes by, totally scandalized, and asks if this is proper, they just laugh at him. Their reaction says it all. These rigid, stuffy rituals completely miss the entire point. For them, the real point was to just acknowledge that their friend was returning to the great flow of nature.
But the story that really drives this home is about Zhuangzi himself. He really walked the walk. When his wife passed away, a friend went over to his house to offer condolences. And he doesn't find a man weeping. He finds Zhuangzi sitting there, drumming on a tub and singing. Now I know, it sounds totally callous, but for Zhuangzi, this was his way of showing a profound understanding and acceptance of what had happened.
He actually explained it. He said that at first, of course he grieved, but then he started thinking about the nature of things. He said, "There's been another change, and she's died. These changes are as the procession of the seasons." He saw that his wife had just emerged from this formless state, lived her life, and was now just returning to it. To wail and weep, he said, would be to show he was incompetent with respect to fate.
And there's another great story about the dying Master Lai. He talks about what he calls the huge clump, which is basically his term for nature itself. He says this force gave him a body and the work of living, and now that very same force is giving him the rest of death. And then he says this amazing line, "So what makes my life good is the very thing that makes my death good." So you've got these two totally opposite ideas: control everything or accept everything. From Zhuangzi's perspective of just flowing with nature, how does Xunzi's path of order really stack up? Let's dig into a critique. Well, the core critique is that Xunzi's elaborate, super-orderly rituals are, in a way, just a method for avoiding the messy, uncontrollable reality of death. It's almost like a symbolic refusal to accept what actually happened. The idea here is that by trying to paper over this huge disruption with all this rigid ritual, you never really cope with it as a natural event. Instead of acknowledging the break, you're kind of pretending it didn't happen, and that can actually just make the pain last longer.
So where does that leave us? Which of these ancient paths should we take? Which one offers a better way to think about the end of life?
Okay, so let's just break this down one more time. For Xunzi, nature is this chaotic thing that has to be shaped by culture, using rigid rituals to keep society in order. The goal is a proper ethical end. For Zhuangzi, nature is a flow you have to accept, using spontaneous expression. The goal is peace.
At the end of the day, this probably isn't about finding a single correct answer, or who wins a logical debate. Xunzi and Zhuangzi seem to represent two totally different temperaments, two different ethical and aesthetic sensibilities, as our source puts it, for how to approach life's biggest mystery.
So, we'll leave you with this question to think about. In your own life, when you think about the inevitable, does the path of order and control, or the path of acceptance and flow, feel more true to you?